Hello. I thought I'd do a little video to let you know that I'm still recovering, but I've just been sent a link to a new audiobook or an Audible uh, series called The Edge of Reality, and about 2 years ago, I was contacted and I gave some interviews to the producer of this series, and so I'm now able to listen to the real thing, and it's really quite astonishing. I was particularly taken by the way he describes the very early reality shows, because the rot sets in right at the beginning, with a man in Sweden called Sinisa. And Sinisa was a refugee who participated in what really was the prototype for the American show Survivor. The Americans didn't want to make this because they said, well, what if somebody dies? And Sinisa was the first person to be voted off the show, which I think was filmed in Malaysia. And he was voted off, and even before the show had broadcast, he told his wife that he was worried about how he was going to be edited, and he went out and killed himself. Now, to date, the Audible recording says there's about 40 plus suicides connected to reality TV. I'm afraid I make that figure nearer 55 or 56 or something like that. And I think it's a very, very dangerous medium. I would not have got involved with it had I known more about it at the time, I think, or I would have been better prepared. But I knew nothing. I didn't even watch Strictly Come Dancing. I've watched a great deal since. And I will at some point write about it. I will at some point make a film or broadcast about it. And I certainly will not remain silent. I've seen too many people damaged, personally now, by this particular medium, this particular platform, this particular thing, and it's a cash cow for the television channels, and nobody wants to talk about the dangers. The press have got this very neat solution that the only people who complain are those people who have failed. They complain about the edit they've got or might get. They complain about fame or the loss of fame. Well, I was in a different position. I had succeeded. I won the audience vote in the show I was on, which is called The Circle. And in fact, as far as the show was concerned, I greatly enjoyed filming it. I loved being on the show, but I simply wasn't prepared for the aftermath. And that aftermath was simply horrific, and I wrote about that as well. And I will write further. It's just a matter of getting the timing right, and getting the product right, and finding the right place to do it. But I saw other people deeply damaged and deeply hurt by the way the show progressed. I've met people from other shows now who equally are deeply damaged and deeply hurt, and many of them are too terrified to speak out. I don't really give a damn. I've been held at gunpoint in the past, and actually, I must confess, the 18 months that followed The Circle were significantly more miserable and terrifying than being held at gunpoint. And at the end of those 18 months, and I wrote about it, of course, I think I wrote an article in The Independent where I said specifically those 18 months have been misery. At the end of that time, I was diagnosed with cancer, and when the tumour was removed, it was apparently 18 months old. Now, that's not, I don't think that's a legal statement. It's anecdotal, but in my mind, there is no doubt the two things are connected. And when I look back at my experience, and now when I listen to wonderful programs like this one, The Edge of Reality. There was another one I heard a while ago on the BBC. They describe a formula which is the same again and again and again, and it's about controlling people. It's about the Milgram experiment and all these vicious forms of intimidation which masqueraded as academic research. Of course, it makes good television, and of course, it's wrong. And it's very strange because you go into these programs, and every part of your environment is controlled. Your watch is taken away, so you have no sense of time. In fact, we did inadvertently have a sense of time because somebody had a watch on a weighing machine, and she pointed out that we were often working until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's the time when we're supposed to be making decisions. And this is the stuff of Hitler, really. Hitler controlled the timing of his appearances. He delayed and delayed, and he made sure big meetings were held at night when people were more susceptible, and so on. When do ghosts appear? They appear in the early hours of the morning when you're already susceptible. Maybe they don't exist, but your mind is going wild at that time in the morning. And of course that makes great telly. But you're also controlled by the zingy pictures around the walls. You're controlled by extreme heat, extreme cold, the constant the constant noise, the constant demands, the voice of God, this constant imperative. Do this, do that, eat now, don't eat now, and so on. And in the end, you become compliant. And when I came off the show, I realised, I had a suspicion while I was on the show, but I realised afterwards, and I confirmed it with my partner who's a torture victim, that's exactly what he went through. Exactly before he was tortured. And he said, yes, it's what happened to me. True. And it's a way of making people compliant. And indeed, the Israeli army and the British army worked together to develop a thing called R21 technique, where they put people under this sort of stress, take away time, put people under lots of commands, control heating, lighting, and so on. Exactly like in a reality TV show, exactly like in Big Brother or The Circle or whatever ridiculous game one might be playing. And the difference is that in the British Army, this is a training which is done under very careful conditions and only for short periods of time at any one point. And it happened to me for over 3 weeks. By the time I came off, I was so garrulous. I was more garrulous than usual. And I was gullible, garrulous and gullible and dependent. And I might have enjoyed the experience on the show, but afterwards I was open to any form of manipulation and any form of control. And my goodness, was I manipulated. I deeply resent it, but I resent what happened to other people too, and therefore I have spoken out. And of course, I suspect in the industry I am hated for doing so. But I could do no other. How could I do anything else when I see that sort of abuse going on? And more than that, most of the time, the press has got used to dismissing people who complain about this by saying, oh, well, you lost. This is just a poor loser. This is just you talking about your bad edit. No, I had a good edit. I had a really good edit. And I won. So I think I have an obligation to talk out. But it doesn't make me, it puts me on my guard about all manner of manipulation wherever it occurs now. And I simply will not tolerate it. I don't like people playing control games with me. I don't like to see people playing control games with other people. It has to stop. And if this is the way our society is going, our society needs to change. And I'm afraid I think that is the way our society is going. We see it in... This is one of the reasons I talk so often about politics, and particularly about politics in the UK, because I think we are heading in a very, very strange direction. And where Mr. Putin has got to, we are going. We are heading towards a society that is not listening to ordinary people and that is simply obeying and getting used to obedience and is being silent and compliant. So of course I object to anything like a law which tells us that we must not protest loudly. It's nonsensical, because protest means to shout. How can we possibly protest quietly? It's a nonsense. And I think it's our duty to call out nonsense when it occurs, whether that happens to be on the television or whether it happens to be in the House of Parliament. We have to call out the nonsense. Wherever it is and on whichever side of the political divide we happen to stand, we have to call out nonsense. Because in the end, we have to recognise that we are a civilised people and that our standards are greater than our immediate needs. And those standards are the things we have to pass on to the next generation. And one of those, I think, is that our entertainment, if that is going to be on television or on the computer or something, must not be at the expense of other people's health or other people's lives. So I recommend this Audible podcast. It's called The Edge of Reality. I think I occur at the beginning of it. I've not heard all of it yet. I think I come back and chatter away a little bit later. But it's just very good. And as I say, I think at some point I will contribute something further.